All right, so let's talk franchises for a second, people. Um, to cut to the chase, pretty much, let's keep it a bean. Every franchise that we've ever known, that we've ever come to know and love, I don't care if it's your favorite, my favorite, his favorite, her favorite, whatever the case may be, doesn't matter. Let's keep it real. Every single franchise has its fair share of bad decisions. And I say that in the defense of this this entire episode, kind of in a way. I don't know if I'm contradicting myself here, but every franchise has fucked up. From Halloween to Fast and Furious to Mission Impossible to Batman to the Avengers, whatever your poison is, whatever your genre is, whatever your franchise is, there's no perfect franchise out here. And even Saw, which I think is one of the franchises that has the best continuity, some of the best continuity I've ever seen on screen before. But even that series has fucked up, whether it's killing certain characters, whether it's just making certain decisions as far as the story goes. Like, every series has this, but you do have the purists out there who are always like, oh, well, this is a perfect series, I've never seen anything wrong with it. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine, people, because I always say how boring would the world be if we all have the same opinions on everything. So I understand we're going to agree to disagree on that. That's fine. And I have no ill intent in any bad words for the purists out there. Y'all stick by your franchises, man. And if y'all see it as perfect, then y'all see it as perfect. I have singular films that I feel like are perfect films that people would tend to disagree with me on, but that's fine, man. We all have opinions. Everyone has opinions, but I feel like I'm justified here. I feel like I'm justified here to talk about dumbass franchise decisions as far as killing certain characters off. Now, a lot of series have done it in the past. As of recently, they've done it. Whether they kill them off just to bring them back, or whether they kill them off just for shock value, or just contractual agreements, creative disputes on set that require script changes and have these characters killed off unexpectedly. I don't know. There are a bunch of different instances that you can use as far as film franchises go with killing characters off, but there are some moments where this happens where it completely fucks the rest of the movie up and the future of your franchise. So I feel like these what do I have? 6 here? These six characters I have here, I feel like a lot of people out there are going to share the same sentiment. Because some of these are very popular amongst people, especially online, amongst the horror, just the film community in general. A lot of these are common denominators with what people, as far as what people complain about with these movie franchises. And a lot of times these series couldn't recover from this. And a lot of times, if this is the movie we left off on and they did a dumbass decision, killing off a character, they're in limbo right now. They're still stuck in limbo. I don't know, but we're definitely going to get to these people. I say this every time, and I don't want to take up too much of y'all time, but I don't know how crazy I'm going to get into these points that I make, in my notes and stuff like that. So I just want to start. I really want to start I want to start about killing off these characters, man, these beloved characters that some people may or may not have just latched onto, but these are the ones I latched onto. So when these characters got killed off in the franchises, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of taken out of the film now. I'm rocking with you because it's all you either already got my money or I'm already here at home watching. So let's see what else you got. And sometimes they didn't recover for the rest of the movie. Sometimes they didn't recover for the rest of the series. And like I said, sometimes they just get stuck in limbo. Like one of these for sure is definitely stuck in limbo for sure. And there's no telling what they're going to do. They might have to go back to the drawing board and reboot the whole goddamn series because you know what? We'll get there when we get there, people. Let's just focus on number 1 for now, because I don't want to get sidetracked. I don't want my notes to intertwine, and I don't want to sound crazier and more scrambled than I already do in these episodes. So let's get to number 1. Dumbass franchise decisions killing characters. My number 1 pick for the dumbest franchise decision is killing Duke in G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now, let me stop y'all. I know a lot of people didn't like the first one. I know a lot of people that didn't like the first one hated the second one. And I know we do have a Snake Eyes movie that's in no way tied to anything but the G.I. Joe name. There's a brand new cast. There's a brand new story. There's a brand new origin. I get it, people. These movies vary in quality, and I understand that. Different directors each time, not necessarily too true to the cartoon. I understand everybody's complaints. Now, let me just say this. First of all, Duke was played by Channing Tatum, for anybody that doesn't know. And yeah, he was basically the anchor of that first film, the main character of that first film for the most part, out of all the Joes. He came back for the second movie. They killed his ass off. So let's just ask ourselves the question, has the series done stupid shit prior to killing off Duke in G.I. Joe Retaliation? And my answer, abso-fucking-lutely. The first movie's dumb. The first movie's done. And I say that, listen, no disrespect to Stephen Sommers. I love the first two Mummy movies he directed. I even like the third one, but Rob Cohen, who did the first Fast and Furious movie, directed that. Stephen Sommers did not come back. Deep Rising is that's his best movie for me. One of my favorite fucking films to come out that year, and just one of my favorite creature features in general. And I never saw Odd Thomas, but I do want to see it and, pay my respects to Anton Yelchin. I don't think that was his last role, but it's like a supernatural horror type of movie. Stephen Sommers directed, and he also directed Van Helsing. Now, one of the things that Stephen Sommers is known for, and this is why I say the movie gets really fucking stupid. The first G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra is the subtitle. Stephen Sommers is, he gets his rocks off special effects. That's what the guy does. There's going to be an international cast. That's one of the best things I love about his films. He has an international cast. They'll have blacks, whites, Indians, Hispanics, whatever, all types of nationalities in there. I love that he merges that together. That's amazing. And he loves his special effects. He loves his fucking CG creatures, his CG people. And I feel like there's a certain amount of money you have to give Stephen Sommers to make a movie, because he's going to go fucking nuts with the CG, which is what he did with that first G.I. Joe movie. That shit is, it's insane. It literally is like a cartoon come to life. Now, I say that to say this. That's one of the reasons I have so much dumb fun with that first movie. Marlon Wayans as Ripcord, Dennis Quaid is in there. The girl that played the babysitter, I can't remember that actress' name, but the girl that played the babysitter in the Amityville Horror remake is in there. She plays Scarlet. Ray Park, who played Darth Maul and Toad in the first X-Men movie, plays Snake Eyes. It's a really great cast, man. And Channing Tatum, like I said, is the anchor as Duke of that first movie. He's the main character. He's the one that has the backstory. He's the one that's tied to the characters from the backstory. He's the unofficial leader of the Joes, man. He's the unsung hero. And that first movie, he's, I'm not going to say it's Channing Tatum's best performance, because he's trying to be an action guy and he's trying to act where need be, but it's just not my favorite performance from him, because there's a lot of line delivery that just doesn't hit for me. But that's not to take away from the fact that he is the anchor of the film. I don't know. I can't keep putting the emphasis on that. So for me to get so attached to the character of Duke and see what happens in the next movie, literally in probably the first 15-20 minutes, easily, if that. I'm actually being nice. I'm giving them a compliment here, because I think it might have been before 15-20 minutes. But how it happens basically is we don't get any mention of any of the previous Joes. Duke is the only one to come back. And one of the things I love about G.I. Joe Retaliation more than the first movie is that it's way more grounded in reality. Now, there's still outlandish G.I. Joe type of shit that goes on. There's a mountain sequence, a fight sequence with the ninjas and Snake Eyes and not Jinx. I can't remember the girl's name that Snake Eyes is fighting with in Storm Shadow, but it's one of the best sequences in the entire movie. I'm sorry. It is the best sequence in the entire movie. There's a bunch of outlandish cartoonish shit going on in the film, but it's way more realistic. And I feel like, the action is just handled a lot better. It's not just things exploding. There's a lot of fight choreography that was, carefully planned and stuff like that. More so with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. But I do I favor, as far as being grounded, I favor G.I. Joe Retaliation more than the first Rise of Cobra movie. But how this happens to Duke, right? Him and The Rock are now best friends, and The Rock plays Roadblock from the G.I. Joe cartoon. So, you know, they're in their little platoon thing, and you see that The Rock and Duke have, you know, they've built such a strong friendship. He's basically the new ripcord for Channing Tatum's character. So what happens is these guys are all out in the desert, and they think that, you know, their fellow security has come with the helicopters, but everything starts getting shot up. There are rockets getting shot everywhere. The Joes are dying, exploding all over the place. Channing Tatum seeks cover. The two other characters that The Rock's character Roadblock is with, they seek cover. And it's like everybody's running for their lives and they're dying, and it's a big war zone. It's almost like a fucking Saving Private Ryan scene. But what happens is Duke goes to save somebody, and while I think he does save that guy's life, a rocket hits him. A rocket hits him, and I think it blows up the car that he's next to, and he just dies. Now, I heard rumors once upon a time that Channing Tatum was either filming something or just didn't want to be there. So they killed his character off. Like, there were rewrites to the script. Now, that's only a rumor. I have no proof to that. I haven't read it online. I haven't seen any interviews with the director. John M. Chu is the guy that directed the film, the sequel, by the way. And you know, Duke he blows the fuck up, man. And there's a mention of him later on, you know, when they meet Bruce Willis, and it's just like, yeah, Sergeant Duke, he saved my life, sir. And Bruce Willis like, yeah, he saved mine too. And da-da-da-da. Like, there's a little couple mentions of him here and there, but once he's gone, he's gone. And I'm like, okay, you got The Rock to carry this film, but this was before The Rock was like, I want to say this was before he was as charismatic as he is now on screen. And the other two people, you know, the guy that plays The Rock's right-hand man, he is no substitution for Duke. You know, he's not a substitution, like, character-wise, and he's not a substitution acting-wise for Channing Tatum. Because this guy's flat as shit. He's flat as hell, and he's the same guy who was in that movie Venom, not the Tom Hardy movie, but the 2005 horror movie. He's the one that plays Ray Sawyer, who's the serial killer. He plays Ray Sawyer's son. And he also plays... oh man, Seth Gecko in the Dusk Till Dawn TV show, and he's actually okay in there because it's almost like he's doing a George Clooney impression, but he's kind of putting his own little flair on it, so he's not too bad in that. However, he's flat as shit here. His acting is terrible in this movie. The girl is really no substitute for Scarlett in the last movie, so it's like The Rock doesn't really have anything to work with as far as these performances around him. So I feel like it kind of brings his performance down, and I feel like having Channing Tatum in the movie for a second time would have benefited, and maybe the response would have been differently. You know, like, why is that dumb to kill his character off? Because Duke was that guy. He's the guy you want to center the story around and just build up the rest of the Joes around him. Have him be more of a leader. He could have been he had the potential to possibly, after that first movie, to be in the same position that Dennis Quaid was in, but be a little more hands-on, be in the field a lot more. Because Dennis Quaid was always in that first movie popping up via hologram, or he was always in his office talking shit, or just in the elevator like, yeah, technically G.I. Joe doesn't exist, so I'm gonna just, get my check and just say my lines the way I'm supposed to. Like, no disrespect to Dennis Quaid, but it's like, come on, man, you were just there just to be there. I don't know what type of light bill you had to pay or phone bill or something like that. You were just there, just kind of passing time through. But I feel like Channing Tatum's character Duke could have been that Dennis Quaid character, but could have been a field general. He could have been in charge of everything. And Channing Tatum and Bruce Willis in a G.I. Joe movie, like, come on now. Now, the question to move on forward to before we move on to number 2, the question is, how can they recover from this, from killing Duke? They can. And honestly, by the looks of, like I said, I haven't seen Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe origin story movie just yet. But from the looks of it, and there's 2 clips in particular that I saw, I will not spoil them for anybody. It looks like they did recover. Now, I know it got a lot of bad reviews, but it looks, I said one of the things I loved about G.I. Joe Retaliation was how grounded it was, as opposed to that first movie being like a comic book pretty much come to life. But the Snake Eyes origin story seems way better than both of those movies. Way more entertaining, way more badass. And I'm all for that, man. I'm all for that. So I do think they can recover. And I hope they do when I finally get a chance to watch that Snake Eyes film. I hope they do recover from that, man. And I hope that movie is good enough and was received well enough for them to keep making G.I. Joe movies. Because I feel like there's a big enough fan base for it out there somewhere. I feel like people are strange enough. And, I'm in that category as well. But there's more than enough characters to go around. There's a plethora of characters to use in the G.I. Joe universe, and we don't have to use the same fucking characters every single time. Of course, you got to have Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow. That's a given, but there's so many characters you can introduce to recover from that, dumbass decision that they made by killing off Duke. Now, number 2. Another action franchise, people. So we're keeping it action before we jump into the horror shit. Number 2, dumbass franchise decisions. Killing John Connor in Terminator Dark Fate, people. Take my glasses off for this one. I'm gonna try not to rant, people, because I feel like when I saw Terminator Dark Fate, that was one of the earliest reviews I had ever done on this podcast 2 years and some change ago. And I think I gave it like a 7.5, 7. I'm not sure, or maybe even an 8. It's one of those movies I was bamboozled, because the more I watch it now, it's like Halloween 2018. The more I watch it now, or the more I watched it afterwards, I was like, wait, something's not right here. Something's not right there. I started to pick apart the flaws in so many crazy ways, man. And I'm just like, yo, like, there's this much wrong with this fucking movie. Like, I had no idea. But Dark Fate, I don't know whose idea it was. I should have wrote the screenwriters' names down for this episode. I'm very ill prepared in comparison to how I usually am, people, but hopefully y'all will forgive me for that. First of all, let's get to the question. Has the series done dumb shit prior? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one could argue that making the T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger a good guy in Terminator 2 was a dumb decision. I disagree. Terminator 2 was good as a switch, because they had a villain that was way more dangerous than the T-800 with Robert Patrick. Shout out. I don't think it was a dumb decision making in the second movie, making him a good guy. Plus, I think Terminator 2 is one of the greatest action movies of all time, has some of the greatest action scenes of all time, and is one of the greatest sequels of all time. It's the best in the series, hands fucking down. Yes, it's better than the original. Y'all can argue me down about that all day, all night. Long as it's respectfully, I don't care. But nothing will change my mind until proven otherwise. They got to come out with, I don't know, either a reboot that tops that, where Michael Bay and James Cameron and Christopher Nolan team up in a joint project to work on it together, or Terminator 2 is just going to forever be the best one in the series. Now, did they do dumb shit prior? Terminator 2, not so much, not even in the first one, but Terminator 3, yes, they did. I think putting Nick Stahl in as John Connor was terrible casting. I did not like him as John Connor at all. Y'all can actually check out my commentaries for Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, by the way. I'm holding out on Terminator 3 and the rest of the series for a little bit, but I will get back to them eventually. But Terminator 3, I did not like that John Connor at all. I didn't give a fuck whether he lived or died or not. I liked Claire Danes as Catherine Brewster. She was okay. I like that they brought the actor who played Dr. Silverman in the first 2 movies. I like that they brought him back. Of course, it's always good to see Arnold in anything, goddamn there. But they did dumb decisions in that movie, because the moment you make the T-800 a joke, then the intimidation factor is gone. Any type of horror elements that the first movie and second movie might have had are out the window at this point. The moment Arnold walks into, a strip club for women to see men dance, and the guy's like, move, bitch, wait your turn. And the gay guy, I'm not even gonna say he's gay. I'm just gonna say he's very flamboyant. Let me be proper here. He's a very flamboyant guy. And, Arnold walks out of that strip club with the guy's clothes on. It's one of those moments. I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. But it's one of those moments. So he walks out looking badass. He's got a new leather jacket. I actually love the leather jacket that they have on him in Terminator 3. But he puts on these starry, glittery sunglasses. And I know it's there for laughs, but it's just in poor taste in comparison to how the T-800 showed up in the first 2 movies. He comes in there, he rips out somebody's heart, he fucks up Bill Paxton and shit like that. He kills Shao Kahn, and then he gets the one guy's clothes. You don't know if he kills that guy or not. Then in the second movie, he fucks those dudes up at the pool hall. He throws one dude on the grill. They're breaking pool sticks over his head. He's throwing people out the window. He's stabbing people in the back, stuck to the pool table. And the dude's like, pull it out, pull it out, pull it out. Like, badassery level 5,000. So you go from that to him going into a strip club, manhandling a flamboyant male dancer and walking out with those fugazi ass sunglasses on, and then he crushes them and switches to the regular sunglasses. It's like, come on, man. Another thing that they strayed away from in Terminator 3 that was a dumbass decision were the practical effects. I know there were practical effects used, but the majority of that shit was layered over with CG. They just got too fucking wacky and goofy with it. So yes, the series has made dumbass decisions prior. A lot of people would argue that making the series PG-13 with Terminator Salvation was a dumbass decision. I disagree, because I feel like that's the best sequel after part 2. I really truly do. Now, John Connor, man, how does it happen? We get the opening. Literally, this motherfucker dies quicker than Duke did in G.I. Joe Retaliation. But John Connor, beloved John Connor, who was played by Edward Furlong, the centerpiece of the fucking second movie, the best character of the second movie. He's the reason people love Terminator 2. You know, it was just the fact that they were bringing him back, and James Cameron, he was even bullshitting like, yes, for people that are asking, Edward Furlong is back in the movie. And it's like, no, the fuck he's not. Y'all probably paid him just to use his likeness on screen so he wouldn't sue y'all. You know what I'm saying? But they used the stand-in CG, and the CG looks phenomenal. The CG looks phenomenal on the kid whoever played John Connor in Dark Fate. The CG looks phenomenal on the actress whoever played Sarah Connor, and whoever played the T-800 Arnold Schwarzenegger's role in the movie. So there's this opening where Sarah Connor's narrating, and she's like, we stopped Judgment Day. I just took 6 volumes and I cannot elevate my voice past these decibels type of shit. Like, her voice is just so laid back and low as she's narrating. I mean, as she should. It's a nice callback to Terminator 2. And you would think that because this is a direct sequel to Terminator 2, John Connor is going to be back into the fold with his mom. You know, they got the flashback sequence popping. They're at like a tiki bar or whatever it is on the beach somewhere. And next thing you know, while she's narrating, this big ass guy is just walking behind her. You kind of don't really pay it no mind, but then you're like, wait, who the fuck is this big physically fit guy who looked like he could tear somebody in half with his bare hands? So you see, as John Connor gets his drinks for him and his mom, he turns around and he is just shell shocked. Like, he just is staring death in the face, which he very much is. And you see John Connor's eyes just widen as this guy who's walking up to him, you see it's the Terminator. How he came back, who knows? I forgot the plot point of how that Terminator came back at that time. But he takes this shotgun out of his bag and blasts John Connor in the fucking chest. And Sarah starts lighting him up with her pistol. He grabs her, flips her ass over backwards, and disarms her. John Connor's still alive, but he's on the ground staring at his mom with his hand out. You know, he's reaching for his mother, and all Sarah Connor can do in shock is just stare at her son. Then you hear another shot go off, but the camera's on Sarah Connor. Then you see Arnold looking at, through his Terminator vision, you see him looking at John Connor, subject or target terminated. That's it. And John Connor's dead. John Connor, people, the key to the future is fucking dead at this point. And I'm not talking dead in the sense that, oh, we can go back in time and save him. No, this fucker is dead. And Sarah Connor runs over to him while Terminator just walks off, and she's holding her son, and she's just like, I'm still high doing this narration, but I couldn't even save my son. We stopped Judgment Day, but I couldn't stop the Terminator. And it's just, and John Connor's dead at that point. He's fucking dead. He's dead. I for the life of me, I don't know who thought this was a good idea. And this shit was such a sucker punch, man, because what they did was they fucked people over. They got everybody gassed up saying, yeah, this is a direct sequel to Terminator 2. This is the one that y'all was waiting for. We tried that direct sequel shit before and threw in some shit, with Terminator Genesis, which was a stinker. Oh my God, that movie sucks. But they're like, listen, this is the one that y'all been waiting for. Wait till y'all see what we do here. No, man, because what y'all did was y'all suckered people in to pay their money to sit down in that theater, and then the director and the writer were like, okay, is everybody seated? All right, everybody good? Y'all strapped in? Y'all got y'all popcorn? Everybody hit up the concession stand? Everybody went to the bathroom, right? Boom! John Connor's dead. I got y'all money. Now y'all in here. Y'all not gonna walk out 5-10 minutes into the movie. I know y'all ain't gonna do that. So y'all might as well just keep y'all asses glued to these seats and enjoy the rest of this crazy ass movie where a lot of shit doesn't make sense and will never live up to even Terminator Salvation, because that's exactly what the fuck happened. Now, is stupid, because why would you have this character that you built so much on, that you set up even in flashbacks in Terminator 2, where you see the older John Connor with the scar on his face. You don't see how he got the scar until Terminator Salvation, but you even build him up in the first movie. We got him in the second. Shitty character, but they built on his story in the third one. Did all that shit, like everything that y'all did, the different variations of this character, this beloved character, even when they made him a Terminator at some point. I don't like Jason Clarke as John Connor, but it was interesting because I'm like, okay, how do they bounce back from this? They didn't bounce back from that movie at all, but I'm just saying, why would you do that in the opening moments of the film? I'm thinking John Connor was going to pop up somewhere in the movie. Him and his mom were going to reconcile, and they were going to wreck shit side by side as older versions of their characters, with this Terminator going up against Gabriel Luna's Rev 9, and you know, teaming up with goddamn, I can't remember the actress's name. Oh goodness, Mackenzie Davis is her name, who plays the character Grace. She's an enhanced Terminator from the future and all of that stuff. And then in the midst of everything, you've got this girl who's pretty much the new Sarah Connor. You know, she's the mother of the future type of shit. But you got to ask the question, how can they recover? Honestly, take y'all asses to the top floor of what is Terminator at this point? Paramount bought the rights to it or something like that. Take y'all asses to the very top floor of Paramount, where the top execs reside. Get y'all some drugs and some alcohol. I don't advocate people doing drugs, but I drink, so I'll advocate somebody drinking. Get y'all some fine liquor. And whatever y'all drug of choice is, because I know y'all do it because y'all was probably on crack thinking of this shit. But whatever y'all do, I don't care how y'all got to get fired up. Go back to that fucking drawing board, get y'all shit together, and give me something better. Because I think at this point, with the shit that they pulled with Terminator Dark Fate in the opening minutes and some of the shit that they did throughout the movie, it's time, man. It's time. I don't think you can recover from that. I don't think that there will be a Terminator Dark Fate sequel that the majority of fans would be happy to see, because I know a lot of people were disappointed. It underperformed at the box office. Even for a Terminator movie, underperformed. I don't know how the box office numbers vary throughout the series, but I know this one was a box office bomb for the most part in comparison to the rest of them. But yeah, y'all need to go back to the drawing board, man. It's that time. It's about that time to go back. Just do it. Just do it, man. Just start over. You know, if y'all can check out my episode. I don't remember where the hell it resides, but it's somewhere in the wreckage. Y'all can listen to my episode of my picks to cast in a Terminator reboot. I'll give you a hint. The Rock's in there. That's the only hint I'm giving y'all. But that's the only way they can recover, is going back to the drawing board. That's the way I feel about that. So let's move on to number 3, people. Dumbass franchise decision. This one pisses me off a little bit more. This franchise decision pisses me off a little bit more than most of them, because this was not only a slasher series that is in my heart. This was a character that was in my heart. 100, 200, 300%, man. And for me to get so attached to this character in the previous movie, for what they did and how they did it, you know, even with the script rewrites that they gave her character, because which they had to do, because she read the script for this sequel she was coming back for, and she was like, no, I'm not going out like that. And when she said that, they did some rewrites and they accommodated her, you know, as far as the rewrites went, but shit still didn't go the way it was supposed to go. And that, for number 3, people, I'm talking about killing Rachel Carruthers in Halloween 5, man. Now, I know this is a pretty popular one because there's so many people online that feel the same way I do about this decision. It was a dumbass decision, but you got to ask, has the series done dumb shit prior? Yeah, arguably, yes. And we're not going to talk about Halloween 3 because I'm pretty sure I know how everybody feels about that shit there. But it's like, one could argue that making Michael Myers and Laurie Strode siblings was a dumbass decision. I disagree. I still think that, even though, you know, John Carpenter said what he said about that first movie, I still think that Michael Myers was chasing her down the whole first movie because they were siblings. That's just my fan theory. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. But John Carpenter needed an out, so he made them siblings. I know a lot of people hated that aspect because they said it takes away from the fact that Michael Myers kills at random, and it takes away from his, you know, his predatory sense and stuff like that, and takes away from the essence of pure evil, so on and so forth, and all the Shakespearean shit that you could say about Michael Myers. So that, like I said, arguably, I disagree. I didn't mind the sibling angle. I listen, if Halloween ends, they reveal that they have been siblings all this time when they wiped it out in the 2018 movie. I'm cool with that too. I don't care. But Halloween 4, a lot of people would arguably say that making Jamie Lloyd, Danielle Harris's character, making her stab her stepmother at the end and kind of setting it up for her to be the new Michael Myers was a dumb decision. I disagree, because that is one of the most bone-chilling, if arguably, I'd use that word again, one of the best endings in the entire franchise. That shit still gives me chills to this day, so I didn't mind that at all. But how it happens. Now, we know Rachel Carruthers, man. I feel like she got off to a rough start because she was pretty insensitive. You know, when we first see her, she's talking to, I think she said it was like 4 a.m. She's talking to her foster sister, Jamie, and she's like, "Do you love me, Rachel?" And Rachel's just like, "Of course I love you." She's like, "We're not really sisters though, Jamie, but that doesn't mean I love you any less," and blah, blah, blah. So she's just kind of being like, she's not being as sympathetic as she should be in those moments, but she's okay. But then to make matters worse, she's like, "Oh, I'm missing out on my date with Brady. I got a babysit and blah, blah, blah." And she pisses, you know, she makes Jamie sad once again. But then she takes her out for ice cream. But then again, she's off to another rocky start because she loses Jamie in the midst of her, you know, Young and the Restless Melrose Place drama with her ain't shit boyfriend Brady when he's trying to fuck Kathleen Kinmont's, you know, and her 2 friends that she's got. When I say 2 friends, I mean Kathleen Kinmont's tits. That's what I'm talking about. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, please watch Halloween 4. That's all I'm gonna say. But ultimately, Rachel ends up being this protector. She ends up being like Laurie Strode 2.0. I know Danielle Harris's character, Jamie Lloyd, is the emotional centerpiece of the film, but I feel like Rachel Carruthers was that maternal figure. She was a motherly figure. She was a sisterly figure. And she went to bat with Michael Myers for this little girl who in the beginning was like, "Yeah, we're not really sisters, Jamie, but I still love you," type of thing. And that was what made her character not likable, so lovable for me, man. Because by the end of the movie, she's pushing Earl's dead body out of his own truck, and Michael Myers is on top of the truck, and here she is swerving all over the road trying to get this fucking serial killer off of the truck to protect her and her sister. And she ends up running Michael Myers over, and it's curtains at, I mean, it's not curtains because he doesn't die. She ends up running him over, and she's still, look, when you go up against Michael Myers to protect somebody, and you survive, like, come on, man, you're good in my book. You're definitely good in my book. And Rachel survived, man. So it was always good to see her back in Halloween 5. And, you know, I feel like the trauma that they went through in part 4 would have definitely made the two characters closer. But no. What did Dominique Othenin-Girard do? And that's the director and writer of Halloween 5, by the way. What did he do? He reduced Rachel Carruthers to a Friday the 13th type of girl. She, you know, all she wants to, yeah, I'll think about going to the Tower Farm party. You know, I'm gonna just leave my, you know, it's Halloween. I'm gonna just leave Jamie here at this, you know, at this orphanage, not orphanage, but it's Haddonfield Clinic. Haddonfield Children's Clinic. But, you know, she's like, yeah, I gotta go home. And because Dr. Loomis basically kicks her and her friend out, and she's like, yeah, I gotta go home. Mom and Dad send her love. And she does tell Dr. Loomis, she's like, yeah, I'm going out to the country with my parents. I don't know why I agreed to this because I can't leave Jamie behind. She has more of a conscience in this film as far as protecting Jamie, especially after what they just went through a year ago in the last movie, because it does literally take place a year later in the actual film. But what happens is she literally gets turned into, I'm not going to say a bimbo, but just a paper thin, you know, blonde in the movie. She takes her clothes off. She gets in the shower. She's running around in a towel for like 10 minutes of the film with just this cat and mouse shit with Michael Myers. And the cat and mouse stuff in the Carruthers house is okay, but it's just a little bit silly in comparison to what should have happened to Rachel Carruthers' character. So what happens is she's still going around the house. The dog Max has been barking up a storm, and Dr. Loomis is calling like, is Max all right? Go and check him, because Jamie's having paranoid schizophrenic delusions over in this bitch, and this joint's about to explode, so we need to find out if everybody's okay. You know, you got Loomis calling, the cops show up, her dog comes back, but then the dog starts barking again, letting her know everything's wrong. And it's even sadder because she calls Jamie and she's like, Jamie, I'm okay. I love you, sweetie. Bye. And Jamie can't speak in this movie, so she's just blowing kisses over the phone. So it makes the moment even more sad. So what happens is Rachel is, more Friday the 13th shit. She's just walking around in a shirt. I mean, it's been done in Halloween before. In the first one, Annie was walking around in a shirt. But she's walking around in a shirt. She hears like a glass break in the bedroom, and she goes in the room and sees Jamie's picture shattered. And what happens is Michael Myers, and it's a weak ass kill because it just comes out of nowhere and boom, it's just over. And Michael Myers comes out of nowhere. She turns around, she screams, and he stabs her in the heart with a pair of scissors. Now, originally she was supposed to get scissors shoved down her throat, but like I said, Ellie Cornell said she's not going out like that. She's too attached to the character. But they still did her dirty. You kill this character, and then you just surround Danielle Harris with a bunch of paper thin Friday the 13th characters that nobody really gives a fuck about. Now, me personally, I do like Tina. I don't feel like Tina was the best substitution for Rachel, but Tina gave her life for Jamie Lloyd, and that's the fact of the matter, man. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I feel like that's something a lot of people don't give credit to Wendy Kaplan for doing. Wendy Kaplan's the actress that played Tina. They don't give credit to her for, dying for Jamie to live. And somebody said something on YouTube one time, and I'm pretty sure I said this in an episode probably like almost a year ago. Somebody said something in the YouTube comments that broke my heart when they said that Rachel should have been the one to die for Jamie during that car chase sequence, or after that car chase sequence near the Tower Farm, instead of Tina. And that broke my heart because I'm like, how gut-wrenching would that have been to watch, to see Rachel survive but finally die in Halloween 5 towards the end of the film in almost a heroic type of way, but just such a sad, somber moment. It would have been way more effective. I'm sorry, no disrespect to the character of Tina, because like I said, I don't hate her. I don't hate her much at all, but a lot of people do. But I feel like, can they recover from this? Yeah, they absolutely can recover from this, but pacing is everything, people. Pacing is everything. And I'll get to that, that in particular, I will get to. Actually, I already did. There's an episode I did where I talked about how they can do a direct sequel to Halloween 4, a proper sequel, rather, to Halloween 4, set in present day with Ellie Cornell and Danielle Harris. That's how you apologize to the fans for doing her character so dirty. I feel like giving her some Laurie Strode Halloween 2018 type of badassness going on would definitely compensate for the way they did her. And I'm all for it. If they were to bring Ellie Cornell back, first of all, if she was to accept, I don't know how, I'm pretty sure she's not too bitter about it. It's probably bittersweet, but I don't think she's bitter towards, the late great Mustafa Akkad and Malik Akkad and I don't know, just the people involved in the making of that film for how everything was done. But it would be an honor to get her back. Y'all would be so lucky to get her and Danielle Harris back in the series. And I want to see it happen. So I feel like they can recover from killing Rachel. I just think it was a dick move, people. It was a dick move. Now, while we're sticking on the subject of Halloween, people, let's jump into number 4, because we are jumping right into Halloween 6. Now, dumbass decision, killing Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 6. Now, I get it. She lived in part 4. She lived in part 5. I feel like a lot of people were like, okay, we got to move on to some new characters and wrap this Jamie Lloyd storyline up. I can understand that. I dig it. However, first mistake, not bringing back Danielle Harris. Now, I'm not even going to explain that shit because there's plenty of documentaries and interviews where she talks about that situation. Is quite unfortunate, man, because, no disrespect to JC Brandy, but she was the replacement for Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 6. And she's trying, man. She is. But anytime they recast characters, I just look at them as completely different people. And in the case of Halloween 6, that goes for Paul Rudd, too. I feel like he's a completely different character, regardless if they call him Tommy or not. It's just very weird. I'm used to it by now, especially because Halloween 6 is one of my favorite Halloween movies, but I feel like it was a big mistake. That was fuck up number 1, was not bringing Danielle Harris back, because it's going to throw people off. Because whether people liked Halloween 4 or 5 or not, I'm pretty sure they could all agree on the fact that Danielle Harris was an amazing child actress in both those movies. And she did everything that she could to come back for that role, but it didn't happen that way. They casted JC Brandy as a teenage Jamie Lloyd. And We know the series did dumb shit prior. I just talked about it. Literally just talked about it. And to piggyback on the dumb shit that they did prior in Halloween 5, they made Michael Myers a bitch in some point in that movie. Like, he cries. Jamie Lloyd makes him cry. She's like, Uncle Boogeyman, and Michael's just like, huh? And she's like, let me see. Michael takes his mask off, and then you see his punk ass crying. No burn scars on his face, by the way. We didn't know he was Cherokee Indian. I think Don Shanks is Cherokee Indian, but it's like, Michael Myers changes nationalities all the fucking time. He's gonna be black in the next movie, and that's not just because of the basement fire at Laurie Strode's compound. I can assure you that. But now, they did dumb shit prior. We've established that. Now, how it happens. We start off Halloween 6 with Jamie Lloyd in this underground lair run by the Thorn Cult. Now, we got hints of the Thorn Cult and the Man in Black in Halloween 5, and that was something really weird introduced to the series. So they had to keep that whole thing going with the Man in Black and the cult shit and, all that weird shit. So in the theatrical cut, everyone's under the impression that Michael Myers got his niece pregnant. In the producer's cut, they spell it out for us pretty much. Michael never admits to it because he never fucking talks. But it is alluded to that Michael impregnated his niece to make this baby his final sacrifice. Listen, if y'all guess is as good as mine with that department. And I like Daniel Farrens as a Halloween fan and as a writer, but y'all guys have to listen to the commentary with him and Alan Howarth and just Anthony. God damn it. Daniel Farrens. God damn. Daniel Farrens. Y'all got to listen to his commentaries and his interviews as far as where the script is going, or where the script was going at the time, because Jamie Lloyd has his baby and she's running from Michael, and you find out that it's actually I think it's Smith's Grove. It's like underground in Smith's Grove or wherever the hell they've got her at, and she's got her baby and she's fleeing Michael Myers, and he's just on her ass tracking her down. And basically what happens is she hides her baby at the bus depot, as you do. And what happens is Michael Myers finds her in this barn after he rams her off the road into a pumpkin patch. He finds her in this barn and he kills the shit out of her. He throws her on like a corn thresher or whatever the hell that farm equipment is. And she's still alive, and she's like, holding her arms out for Michael to help her or hug her or something. And Michael, you think he's going to have a heart at some point because he holds his hands out too, but then he pushes her ass further back onto the blades. So they're just protruding out of her stomach like just crazy. And I remember when I first saw that, I'm like, holy shit, like they just killed Jamie Lloyd and in one of the most vicious ways possible. That's ballsy. And if y'all do that in the beginning of the movie, I'm all for it. But then sometimes I go back and I think of what they were going to do in the original script. She was going to survive and die saving everybody at Smith's Grove at the end of the movie. That was going to be her heroic send off. And I'm like, when I found that out years later, I'm like, wait. I got to do a podcast episode about this in a couple years when I finally start one. But that's what happens, man. And then Michael turns the machine on and starts grinding up her insides and stuff. And he doesn't find the baby because that's the last thing she says to him. You can't have the baby, Michael. You can't have the baby. And then Mari comes out of nowhere and he's like, in the case of 1 month old, blah, 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 which didn't even make any sense because how the fuck would the baby be 1 month? People, I know I'm all over the place. And sometimes when I try to joke, it just goes left and it doesn't make sense. But y'all know. That's where dry humor gets me, right? Now, it's dumb. It's dumb overall because I get it. Shock value. And there's a part of me that sympathizes with why they did that, the way they did it, because of what they were going for. But even in the producer's cut, she doesn't die that way. She dies in the hospital. The Man in Black shoots her in the fucking head while she's in the hospital from being attacked by Michael Myers. It was a shitty send-off. It was. They tried to make it all dramatic and, excuse me, theatrical and stuff like that, but it just didn't work. But I get why they did it. There's a part of me that likes the shock value factor. I do. But there's the other part of me outweighs that nowadays because I'm like, damn, I just sit back and I overthink a lot, not just movie wise, but if we're talking about movies right now, I'm like, I sit back and I think of what could have been. Like, what would I have done differently to make Halloween 6 more accepted, to make Jamie Lloyd's character way more interesting? What could we have done? You know what I'm saying? And can they recover from this? Yeah, I go back to what I just said about the Rachel Carruthers character. Yes, you can recover from this. And they did, much love and respect to Rob Zombie, man, for casting Danielle Harris as Annie Brackett in his two movies that he did, the 20, what was that, oh god, 2007, the 2007 Halloween movie and the 2009 sequel. Y'all can check out my commentary for that if y'all want. But Rob Zombie brought her back, I feel like, because he knew the fans would appreciate that, and I feel like he appreciated the work that she did in the two Halloween movies she was in, and that was such a sweet gesture for him to do. But I still feel like after all this time, and after how dirty the franchise has done Danielle Harris, she's still loyal to the fans. She's still loyal to the franchise, and I feel like she would still come back. So that is the way y'all compensate and make up for killing her character off the way y'all did in Halloween 6. You can definitely recover from that for sure. But again, pacing is everything. After Halloween ends, I don't want to see Michael Myers for another couple of years. I got a brand new trilogy set that I can sit on for the next couple years. If you're going to do another Halloween movie, do a sequel to Season of the Witch. But I do feel like Danielle Harris and Ellie Cornell are both owed their dues. I feel like they are definitely owed a comeback in the series. A lot of people disagree. That's cool. Just my opinion. Now, moving on to number 5, people, because we're going to wrap this shit up in a little bit. Like I said, I only got 6 on this list and we're almost 45 minutes into this. God damn. I'll be losing track of time, people. This is what happens when I get my thoughts out to y'all. So I blame y'all for this. This is all y'all fault. I didn't do it. So number 5. This is another one that I'm still not over this, because when I first saw this, everybody had the same reaction to it. Everybody was like, wait, what? Like, is he coming back? Like, this is a joke, right? They didn't just do that. Like, not before the third act of the movie, but they did. And number 5 is killing Randy in Scream 2. Now, has the series done dumb shit prior? It's really hard to say. And honestly, I got to say no, but it would be hard to tell because this was only the second movie in. I could see if they did it in the third movie for some shock value, but they did it in the second movie to really show people that they meant business. And while I respect it at the end of the day, because you want people to know that you're serious, like, yeah, Scream started off as a satire. And I feel like a lot of people forget that. That's one of the reasons I love Scream 3 is because it fully embraced the fact that it's a fucking satire. It wasn't meant to be taken seriously, honestly. It's meant to be meta and poke fun at the slasher genre. But when Scream 3 did that, a lot of people didn't appreciate that. And it just fucking boggles my mind, man. But it just so happened that off the page, a lot of stuff in that original Scream was scary, because I remember my big cousin taking a bunch of us younger cousins to the theater to see it. And there were moments in the theater where everybody was scared, whether it was the opening with Drew Barrymore, whether it was the chase sequence throughout the Marker house at the end. There were parts that were genuinely scary in that first movie back when everybody saw it. So it's you really can't say the franchise made dumb decisions, because Scream is kind of one of those it's kind of one of those bottle films, man. It's one of those once in a lifetime type of things that you'll never get those types of movies again. No matter how many sequels you do, nothing's going to top that first film at all. And I'm not saying that to try to down talk the new movie that's coming out in January, but you're not going to fuck with that first movie. If you do, then I'll stand corrected and I'll eat more crow. Y'all know, man, I have no problem admitting when I was wrong about a movie. But so I don't think the series has done dumb shit prior. But how it happens is, everybody's sitting in the park on the college campus. You've got Randy, you've got Gail, you've got Dewey, which was good to see because the returning characters are still hanging out. And then you got Joel, played by Dwayne Martin. And that was Gail's cameraman in the second movie. And where the hell is he at? Like, can we get him in Scream 5? Damn. Like, can we get these returning characters to come back? I'm just saying, where did everybody go? But he was a smart black guy in the series who got the fuck out of Dodge. But they're all sitting in the park. Gail's phone keeps ringing. Randy answers it. He's like, Gail's not here. And they find out that it's Ghostface, and Ghostface is actually watching them from an unknown position. So Dewey and Gail run off to have their lovers quarrel, detective moments and shit. So Randy's got a funny moment where he's just shit talking with Ghostface, and then he kind of takes it to the extreme, and it makes you wonder why. Like, why was this a trigger? We find out later on that he was actually talking to Mrs. Loomis. Spoiler alert, because there are 2 killers in Scream 2 as well. Mickey, played by Tim Oliphant, and Mrs. Loomis, played by that woman in Roseanne with the short hair. I can't remember that actress's name. Is it Laurie Metcalf? I want to say her name is Laurie Metcalf. But That was a trigger. Everything he's saying about Billy, Ghostface just gets quiet and pulls Randy into this van that he's standing in front of. You don't even know Ghostface is in the van, and because you keep getting these POV shots of Randy looking all over the place. There's people playing catch. There's all types of distractions, and there's all types of laughs to be had in that moment. But Randy gets pulled into this van, and not only does he get his back tossed into the window and the window shatters, so who knows what type of damage that did before he gets all stabbed up, but Ghostface just starts stabbing his ass up and then cuts his fucking throat. Now, there was something in the script where Randy survived and was going to be in Scream 3, but he had survived his injuries and went into protective custody. No disrespect to the late, great Wes Craven, but no, that fucker's dead. That motherfucker got stabbed in a bunch of major organs, probably was bleeding out at the time, and got his fucking throat slashed. Randy is a bloody mess when they find that dead body in that van. And that moment, it's just like, yo, honestly, the movie stops for me at that point. The only reason it picks back up is because Holly, Elise Neal's character, and Sydney get attacked in the police car. The two police officers get killed, or the Secret Service guys get killed. And the third act is pretty decent. But when Randy dies, I don't really give a shit about anything else for the most part. Like, in my heart, I don't care, because Randy. Let's talk about why it was dumb. It's a good segue into why this was dumb. Because Randy was us. Randy was the audience, man. He was saying everything that the true movie geeks were thinking about. From the first movie alone, he's like, if you were the prime suspect in a senseless bloodbath, would you be standing in the horror section? Like, it's so many things that Randy says that we feel like we are, like, he is our ventriloquist at that point. Or either or. Like, I don't know how I was trying to word that, but y'all get what I'm saying. Randy's the voice of the people, man. And Randy, honestly, there hasn't been a character, with the exception of Charlie and Kirby in Scream 4, even though that's my least favorite sequel. I don't hate it, but it's my least favorite of the sequel of the bunch. But other than those two, Randy's still the best character in any Scream movie ever. No diss to Sydney and Dewey and Gail and Deputy Hicks and everybody that survived, and Patrick Dempsey's character, Detective Kincaid. I wonder if they're bringing him back. No diss to them. I love me some Scream movies, man. And I love me the Scream characters that they bring, and I love how witty they are. But nah, man. No. No. Just stupid decision that they could never recover from. You can't recover from that. That was a segue into the last question. You can't recover from that. And I swear to God, they better not bring Randy back, because he's dead. Now, as much as I would want to buy it and be like, yo, Randy got his neck sewn up, he can't talk, he's got like a, one of them trachea rings or something like that, whatever the hell they call them, and he got patched up really quickly, and his parents put him into protective custody, and his sister put him into No, I'm not buying it, man, because he died. Randy died, and y'all fucked up. So there's no recovering from that. And there's not going to be a character that's fucking with him. Unless Scream 5 proves otherwise in January. Look, there's no recovering from that. I just don't see it. So let's jump to number 6, the last of the Mohicans, before we're an hour into this and you guys get bored listening to me. If y'all haven't already. Hopefully y'all have not and are still sticking around. But number 6, man, this is actually a three-piece, no nugget. You know what I'm saying? This is a 3-piece right here. Number 6, in our last dumbass franchise decision, killing Kincaid, Joey, and Kristen in Nightmare on Elm Street 4, the Dream Master. Now, this was just, I get it. I understand. And something happens in the third movie where it's like, okay, if that happened at the end, anything can happen moving forward. I understand 3, 4, and 5 do this with certain characters that you think are going to make it through. Now, really quickly, let me talk about part 3 before I jump into has a series done dumb shit prior. Part 3, when we see Nancy died at the end of the movie, anybody can go. Nancy and her father, but Nancy in particular, when she died, any of these kids can get it. That was it for me, and the way she died, the way Patricia Arquette is just like, I want to dream you into a beautiful dream forever and ever. And the way she's whimpering, I'm just like, damn, like, is somebody cutting onions in this bitch? Because I sure am not, but it's effective. But after that, it's like, yo, anybody's on the chopping block. Freddy is fucking vicious at this point. But has the series done dumb shit prior to part 4? Me personally, I don't think so. People might argue they did a lot of stupid shit in part two. They broke a lot of rules, but it was only the second movie. Now I know the established lore, the established rules and stuff like that were already established, of course, in the first movie, right? But the second movie was very ballsy. I feel like that was when Freddy Krueger was at his most intimidating. And I just love that it's a possession film. It's so crazy and it's so black sheepish as far as the franchise is concerned, but I love me a good underdog entry, man. I really do. And I tend to gravitate towards what a lot of people hate. But like I said, arguably, because over the years, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 has found its voice. It's definitely found its voice, man, especially amongst the LGBT community, because they embrace Mark Patton's character, Jesse. Mark Patton, you know, they didn't say Jesse was gay in the movie, but Mark Patton turns out he actually was a gay actor. There's a lot of homoerotic things in that second movie, but, you know, if y'all listen to my commentary for Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I have a ball watching it every single time I do, man. I love that fucking movie, man. I have no hatred in my heart for anything that they did. They broke rules. They were ballsy about it, and I love it. And Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I feel like that's the most popular entry. So personally, for, you know, the majority, and for me personally, I don't think the franchise did dumb shit prior. So why would y'all start on part 4? Why would y'all start making dumbass decisions for part 4? Now, how it happens, we get, you know, the last of the Elm Street children at the end of part 3, you know, not including Neil, he was their doctor, but the last of the Elm Street children in part 3 were Kincaid, Joey, and Kristen. Nancy died, everybody else died. So the movie starts off with Kristen, now replaced by, you know, I almost called her Patricia Arquette. Patricia Arquette was replaced by Tuesday Night as Kristen Parker. I prefer Patricia Arquette, but you know, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I don't hate Tuesday Night. Her performance is just slightly awkward in the film. I don't know, man. I'm just a brat when it comes to recasting. Nothing against Tuesday Night, man, because I'll probably be, if she has an Instagram page, I'm tagging her to this, and I hope she takes no offense to this whatsoever, because you are forever a part of a great Nightmare on Elm Street film. You're a part of a great series, and you had you know, a career in music. So who the hell am I on a small podcast platform to talk shit? But you know, we start off with Kristen, the new and improved Kristen, who can still bring people into her dream. So what does she do? She brings Joey and Kincaid into her dream, Rodney Eastman and Ken Sagos. And, you know, Kincaid's like, bitch, you are putting a serious dent in my beauty sleep. And I just love it, because Kincaid is just pissed off right from the rip. And, you know, Joey's just so cool surfer, like he's just high as fuck. He's like, the pipes are cold, the boiler's cold, here, put your hand against it, it's cold, right? It's cold as ice. This is my best Jim Morrison impression. So we get the Elm Street kids. This is the thing though, it's really weird that they're not as close as you figured they would be with all the shit they went through in Weston Hills and in their dreams in particular. You would think that they would chill around each other more, maybe have a support group of their own, just the three of them. Maybe they have tequila and smoke a L and talk about the traumatic events that they went through prior to getting their asses back in school and, you know, trying to go about having a normal life. But it's not like that. They don't hang out at all. You only see them outside of the dream. You only see them three together in one sequence. And that's when they're talking about the night before when they were all in the same dream together. And it's a cool moment, but that's the only moment you get with the three. They feel very much detached from each other. You know, after that last movie, which was kind of strange to me. It's just very strange to me, man. Now, how it happens is Freddy doesn't kill them at the same time, of course. He kills them all separately. Now, he kills Kincaid first. Kincaid falls asleep and he ends up in a junkyard where Freddy's bones were buried at in the last movie. And his dog pisses fire onto, you know, where Freddy's buried at. Freddy comes back to life. He puts himself back together. It's a decent scene. Kincaid thinks he kills him by smashing a car on top of him. He celebrates, but Freddy doesn't go down that easily in the dream world. That's his realm. You know, you're fucking around with his timetable at this point. I sound like the dude from, what was his name, Fouché from Bad Boys. He's like, you're fucked with my timetable and I'll put the bullet in the chemist and the next bullet is for the girl. Like, that's, anytime I hear timetable, I think of Fouché from Bad Boys. But Kincaid basically, he gets stabbed. He just gets stabbed and he's like, I'll see you in hell. And he's like, tell him Freddy sent you. And then he stabs him one more time. And then he stabs him again when he's like 1 down, 2 to go. It's because he thinks these are the last of the Elm Street kids he has to worry about until he gets introduced to the new ones. So Kincaid wakes up and he's like gasping. And I don't know if he died of like a heart attack or just internal bleeding. Because, you know, if you die in your dreams, of course you die for real. But it has to make sense in the real world, which it doesn't. For the next kill, Kincaid dies, but the next kill, Joey falls asleep watching MTV, and he's got his headphones in, and it's kind of a nod back to Johnny Depp, having the headphones in the TV, watching the Miss America pageant and shit like that, and getting sucked into the bed. But what happens is Freddie, there's a naked girl in his bed, and we all know Joey's a sucker for some blonde hair and tits and ass. So there's a naked girl in his waterbed that was on his poster, prior to that. And he's looking for her when she disappears into the bed, and Freddie pops out and he's like, how's this for a wet dream? And he starts drowning him. But when he sticks his glove into the water, you just see a pool of blood now. So it is literally a bloodbath he's turned Joey's waterbed into. So he drowns him and kills him. But when Joey's mom finds him, he's just stuck in the waterbed. So there's no explanation as to how Joey got in there, which is kind of strange. But who the fuck knows, man? It's a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I feel like you can take all the creative liberties you want to. There's a fine line between whether you can say if things make sense or not, because, like I said, it's a Nightmare on Elm Street film. And Kristen, her mom drugs her. Her mom puts sleeping pills in her, in her drink at the dinner table or lunch, whatever the hell they're having in the afternoon. So Kristen ends up falling asleep. She's trying to call Alice, but she falls asleep and she's like, dreams someplace fun. She dreams of a beach, but then Freddie pops up on the beach, kicks her ass in the sand. She ends up at the Elm Street house, 1428 Elm again, the house that she can't seem to get out of her dreams. Maybe she was meant to live there forever. I don't know. But what happens is she brings Alice into her dream, and her introducing Alice to Freddie introduces Freddie to Alice's friends. And that kind of kickstarts the rest of the kills for the movie. And what happens is Freddie throws Kristen while she's trying to protect Alice from Freddie. She throws Kristen into this pool of fire, and she gives Alice her power. She's like, you need my power. And she throws her the power into Alice after Freddie takes her soul. Kristen is in the chest of souls and spits the power into Alice in the dream, and Alice wakes up. But when Alice wakes up Rick, she's like, we got to get to Kristen's house. And when they're outside the house, they see Kristen's room is on fire, and it's a really sad scene because you see Kristen's hand hanging off the bed, burning. They didn't say how the fire started. All they show after her burning to death is the cemetery where Donald Thompson, John Saxon's character, Nancy Thompson, Heather Langenkamp, Kincaid, Joey, and now Kristen Parker, they're all buried around each other. That is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series by itself. Why was this dumb? Because they should have been they should have been the thing for the movie. I would have loved to see Kristen, Joey, and Kincaid interact with Sheila, interact with Dan, interact with Debbie, interact with Rick. I would have loved to see that, man. But instead, we just get all these characters that we got so attached to dispatched in the first act of the movie. And it's before the first act of the movie is even over. But like I said, once Nancy died in the Dream Master, the Dream Warriors, once Nancy died in that movie, all bets were off at that point. Anybody can go. And that's why I said 3, 4, and 5 do this. They kill Nancy in part 3. They kill Joey, Kristen, and Kincaid in part 4. Dan survives part 4 with Alice from almost dying in the dream, but he wakes up because he's hemorrhaging. But he dies before the first act is over of part 5. So the Nightmare on Elm Street series was known for doing that over the course of those 3 films. So it happens. But 3 and 1, like, come on, man, you could have left Tuesday Night in there, killed Joey off, and there's no disrespect to Rodney Eastman, but killed Joey off in the second act, killed Kincaid off in the third act. You could have scrambled the kill sequences around a little bit, but not before the first act is over. And not those 3 characters, man, because everybody loved those characters. Everybody had things that they loved about those characters, man. Even Joey, there was something likable about Joey in the third movie, even though he only had, how many lines did he have? He said no, then he said, did I say that? You got 5 words total probably in that entire movie. I don't think he said anything after that, honestly. But there's something likable about all those characters. So to just toss them out like it's nothing was a disservice to the character arcs that they developed in the Dream Warriors, man, because I love how Kristen says, how could I let them get to them? We were a team, and they were, and all that shit was just forgotten and thrown out the window in the next movie. And I'm not throwing shade at Rennie Harlan or whoever the writer was for that film, but it was just a dumbass decision to make, man. Just the way that it was executed overall. They could have, if it was executed differently, I'd be a little more forgiving. Now, the question before we wrap this up, people, how can they recover? How can they recover? I feel like, somebody said on Facebook one time, this was a random person in the comments and was like, yo, I would take a sequel to the Dream Warriors. And I'm like, I would love to see that. But if you do that, it's going to tear fans in half, because it's like, do you bring back Patricia Arquette or do you bring back Tuesday Night? Now, I know the majority would say, yeah, bring back the original Kristen, Patricia Arquette. But believe it or not, people, Nightmare on Elm Street 4's Kristen, Tuesday Night has her fan base as well, especially people that were familiar with her music prior. So it's kind of a tricky situation with how you do that. But if they were to do a direct sequel to Dream Warriors, and these kids are, well, now adults, Joey Kincaid and Kristen, if they're still fucked up from what they went through with Weston Hills, I don't know if the actor that played Neil is still living or not. I'm not sure. But if he is, bring him back as well. But if they did that, I would buy that, man. Whether they put Patricia Arquette or Tuesday Night in there, I would definitely buy a Dream Warrior sequel. That's the only way they can recover from that. I'm not saying that the series is over, because they're going to make more Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I guess the Wes Craven's estate is just trying to figure out what is the best way to go about doing it. And, they're taking their time. And I feel like with the resurgence of all these slasher movies, Michael Myers, Chucky, the Candyman, Ghostface is coming back, Leatherface is coming in February, and Pinhead's getting TV series in a separate movie. With this resurgence that's coming, I feel like it's good that they're taking their time with the Nightmare on Elm Street movie, with another Nightmare on Elm Street movie rather, because what we got last time with that 2010 remake, that was just a shit show. And that's definitely no shade to Jackie Earle Haley. I thought he was a great Freddy Krueger, and I thought he was a really good, intimidating Freddy Krueger, but he didn't have anything to work with. He didn't have a good script. He didn't have a good director. He didn't have, good producers around him, a strong enough cast. There was no creativity in there whatsoever. So he did everything he could to make Freddy scary again. So it wasn't his fault. It was just everything around him was just crumbling, and, it wasn't his fault. But I would rather we pace ourselves with Nightmare on Elm Street, even though it's been a decade and some change. I would rather we pace ourselves and come up with something really innovative, something really creative, something really wacky and fantastic, rather than rush into a Freddy movie and, have another piece of shit that's going to take, bring us 10 steps backwards and bring us back to the drawing board. Because that's one of the reasons why they did a remake in the first place, was because it's like, okay, how do we follow up Freddy's Dead? How do we follow up Freddy versus Jason? They didn't know what to do. So they went back to the drawing board with a remake. But excuse me, people. Jesus Christ, excuse me. But I say that to say this, people, in my, my closing statements. You franchises out there, man, you have to be careful how you handle your characters. I was just watching a podcast earlier where it was an older episode, but they were talking about how everybody was salty when they killed Han in Tokyo Drift. Han, Sun Kane's character was the best part of Tokyo Drift for me personally. So you kill him in that same movie, but you had to bring his ass back. We knew he was going to die eventually. So, because Tokyo Drift is a prequel to Furious 7. So when he dies in the open, or at the end of Fast 6, Furious 7, they're going to touch on that. He's going to be dead. Fast 8, he's still dead. Fast 9, they had to bring that ass back because he's a fan favorite. They did the same thing with Michelle Rodriguez. There are certain ways you have to handle you got to pay attention to what the fans want. You got to pay attention to what the fans gravitate towards. If the fans love Kristen Parker, they want to see Kristen Parker in the next movie. They don't want to see her killed off in the first act. If the fans love Rachel Carruthers, they don't want to see her, reduced to this, a blonde bimbo that's half naked running around like she's clueless throughout the whole first act of the film, and then just getting killed off like it's nothing. Like she was a character that meant nothing to anybody, like she was disposable. The fans don't want that. So I feel like a lot of the times especially when these new directors jump into the driver's seat for something that already exists, they don't really know how to handle a lot of these characters. So they're just like, all right, man, look, I don't know what to do. What should I do? And then you probably either have them being lazy, or you have the producers around them, the suits around them being lazy. Like, yeah, we could just kill the character off. No big deal. We got a bunch of new characters to do all this other shit with. That's what I feel like happens a lot of time. They don't know how to execute. But there's room for improvement as far as franchises go, because the franchise thing nowadays is bringing people back. That's one of the things that has me on the fence about Scream. A lot of people say Stu is going to pop up in Scream 5, and I'm like, bullshit. If he pops up, bullshit. That motherfucker got a TV. First of all, he was bleeding out. He told him, he's like, Billy, you cut me too deep. I think I'm dying here, man. It's like you're bleeding to death for one. Two, you get a TV thrown on top of your head and get electrocuted. Now there was a Scream 3 draft where Stu came back as the killer. And I'm like, how, Sway? Like, how? But that's the new thing that franchises are doing. They're bringing back characters and they're tying up loose ends and they're going to try to make it make sense. One of the big, but let me just say this before I end this. In the process of making it make sense, y'all be the fuck careful with them with that screenwriting, man. Because a lot of that shit is lazy writing and is bamboozling to the point where I'm just not buying it. I'm a Fast and Furious fan, but the explanation they had for how Han survived, complete bullshit. It was one of the worst things about that movie for me, as much as I enjoyed it. I'm not buying how they brought him back. Don't bring people back on no bullshit. They brought Michelle Rodriguez back in Resident Evil also, of Retribution, because she died in that first movie, but they gave her two characters in that. They brought her back as a clone of Rain, and they brought her back as a clone of just some suburban woman who was very timid, didn't know how to shoot guns and defend herself. Nothing like that. But because it's a fan favorite character, they probably were like, yeah, let me bring this character back for a sequel and give her 2 roles this time around. Tell her it's on my tab. But you just have to be careful with how you write the way these characters come back, if you do bring them back at all, or don't kill them in the first motherfucking place. I feel like these characters shouldn't have been killed when they were killed in the fashion that they were killed. And that's all I got to say about that, people. I'm just a passionate movie guy. That's it. I just love my characters, man. I don't want my characters to go, if you go out heroic. Don't do it just for shock value, and don't do it in a lazy way to just get rid of characters to introduce new ones that can't even fill the shoes or the socks, for that matter, of the characters you're killing off. You have to be careful, man. It's quite the minefield in situations like that, but I feel like it's very avoidable. It's very avoidable at the end of the day, man. So stop killing off my beloved characters, you motherfuckers out there. That's all I got to say about that, people. But y'all already know I got to get to some commentary, man, because I've been playing around. I have no idea when I'm going to upload all these episodes. I really don't, because I've just been rocking and rolling, rightfully so. But yeah, man, y'all already know where to go, man. And if y'all don't, which y'all should, y'all better at this point, man. God damn. But I know I get a lot of new listeners not a lot of, but some new listeners every once in a blue moon. But I'm grateful for all of y'all. But if y'all don't know, man, y'all can follow the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, Podbean, and Podcast Addict. Shout out to Anchor. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Romero Tudor. Shout out to the Facebook movie group, The Cinemaniacs, and shout out to the Facebook movie group, The Horror Virus. And last but not least, shout out to the Tudor reviewers, the listeners, the lovers, the supporters out there, man. Y'all are killing it. Still tuning in. And hopefully y'all continue to do so for this week. That'll be like the ultimate birthday gift. Just you guys tuning in and us making it to the 14K mark. No pressure, man. If we don't get there, we'll get there eventually. I'm not in a rush to, kill shit. I don't know how I was about to make it make sense, but I was about to say I'm not in a rush to kill shit off. Like, I don't want to kill off the 13.8K, if that makes any sense. This isn't making sense, is it? It's not, man. This is why I would never last a day or even 5 seconds on stage doing some stand-up comedian shit. This is why I only do my dry humor and jokes with you guys, man, on the comfort of this podcast platform, man. Because I feel like a lot of listeners out there have been tuning in long enough to know what I'm trying to say when I don't make sense of the words the way I'm trying to say them when I say my words. Get what I'm saying? I know y'all don't, and sometimes neither do I, but y'all already know, man. Much love for y'all. Y'all already know the love and support that y'all show me. I definitely show it back to y'all tenfold and then some. So with that being said, people, yours truly, Romero Tudor, another episode of Tudor Reviews in the can. I'll check y'all on the next one.